A woman is restrained on all fours within the central spina of the hippodrome of Constantinople. Iron manacles secure her wrists and ankles. She is unclothed save for tattered scraps of fabric. Her back bears the raw marks of recent flagellation. 50,000 spectators saturate the ascending stone tiers on all sides. They are roaring, jesting, placing wagers. Behind her, she can perceive something drawing nearer. Heavy footfalls, snorting exhalations. The clamor of the multitude shifts, becoming louder, more frenzied. She rotates her head just enough to glimpse guards leading a gargantuan bull through the arena gates. The beast is immense, over 1,000 pounds of sinew and horn. It is being driven directly toward her. This is not an execution. This is what the Byzantines designated as entertainment. And if you remain until the conclusion, you will discover the precise outcome when that bull reached her. Her name is Helena. She is 23 years old, originating from a noble lineage aligned with the Blue faction. Presently, she can feel the scorching sand of the arena floor irritating her knees and palms. It is summer in Constantinople. The sun is merciless. She has been kneeling here for 2 hours already. The iron restraints have lacerated her wrists. Blood trails down her forearms, dripping into the sand. The sound of the crowd is overwhelming, a ceaseless roar. 50,000 voices merged into a sound that is inhuman. She can detect her own scent, sweat, terror, and blood. She can smell the arena, ancient sand that has absorbed gore for 3 centuries, old mortality blended with fresh. She can hear the bull approaching more closely, the rhythm of its hooves on the stone, the guards bellowing orders, the sharp crack of whips forcing it forward. Her respiration is rapid and shallow. Panic is gripping her. She yearns to bolt, but the chains immobilize her. She is positioned exactly where they desire her, facing away from the oncoming animal, unable to see it, only to hear its proximity intensify. The crowd is now chanting, synchronized and rhythmic. She cannot decipher the words above the noise, but she knows they are not rooting for her survival. They paid to witness an event, one that will be recounted for years, something intended to make other women reconsider challenging the Green faction. Helena is unaware that 3 other women have already perished in this arena this week. She does not know that her impending fate has been meticulously engineered by men who grasp precisely how to destroy a person without causing fatality. She does not know she will survive this day, but will spend the remainder of her brief life wishing she had not. What she does know is that the bull is almost directly behind her now. She can feel its breath, humid and hot, against her back. She begins to shriek. Here is the knowledge they intentionally withheld regarding the Byzantine Empire. You are familiar with the magnificent mosaics and the towering cupolas of Hagia Sophia. You learned about Constantine and Justinian and the preservation of Roman law, yet you never learned that the hippodrome of Constantinople was a slaughterhouse where political adversaries were annihilated before cheering spectators for over 1,000 years. You never heard about the systematic application of public degradation and torment as mechanisms of state governance. And you certainly never uncovered the specific methodologies Byzantines utilized to crush women who jeopardized the political establishment. Tonight, you will comprehend why the hippodrome was not merely a venue for chariot races, but a theater of deliberate malice. How the faction system coerced citizens into complicity with atrocities, and why the most profoundly savage spectacles in Byzantine history were specifically directed at women. The reason this history has been sanitized will clearly demonstrate how powerful empires mask their darkest deeds beneath assertions of civilization and Christianity. Hit that like button and subscribe if you seek the concealed truths history attempted to suppress. Stay with us, because what I reveal at the end concerning Helena and the bull will utterly stun you. Comment where you are viewing from. Now let us proceed, because this narrative intensifies in darkness. The Hippodrome of Constantinople was distinct from Roman arenas. It possessed a more sinister quality. Constructed in the 3rd century and expanded by Constantine in 330 AD, it became the political and social axis of the Byzantine Empire. The edifice was gargantuan, over 400 meters in length, 100 meters in width, with rising stone seats that could accommodate 100,000 spectators, though 50,000 was more common. At one extremity stood the Katizma, the imperial enclosure where emperors sat in observance. The arena floor utilized fine sand imported from Egypt, specifically selected and expensive. Running along the external walls were corridors and chambers, storage facilities for equipment, and detention cells for detainees. And beneath the entire structure, a network of tunnels and rooms that most citizens never encountered. This was not simply architecture for amusement, it was infrastructure for state terror.
Her name is Helena. She is 23 years old, originating from a noble lineage aligned with the Blue faction. Presently, she can feel the scorching sand of the arena floor irritating her knees and palms. It is summer in Constantinople. The sun is merciless. She has been kneeling here for 2 hours already. The iron restraints have lacerated her wrists. Blood trails down her forearms, dripping into the sand. The sound of the crowd is overwhelming, a ceaseless roar. 50,000 voices merged into a sound that is inhuman. She can detect her own scent, sweat, terror, and blood. She can smell the arena, ancient sand that has absorbed gore for 3 centuries, old mortality blended with fresh. She can hear the bull approaching more closely, the rhythm of its hooves on the stone, the guards bellowing orders, the sharp crack of whips forcing it forward. Her respiration is rapid and shallow. Panic is gripping her. She yearns to bolt, but the chains immobilize her. She is positioned exactly where they desire her, facing away from the oncoming animal, unable to see it, only to hear its proximity intensify. The crowd is now chanting, synchronized and rhythmic. She cannot decipher the words above the noise, but she knows they are not rooting for her survival. They paid to witness an event, one that will be recounted for years, something intended to make other women reconsider challenging the Green faction. Helena is unaware that 3 other women have already perished in this arena this week. She does not know that her impending fate has been meticulously engineered by men who grasp precisely how to destroy a person without causing fatality. She does not know she will survive this day, but will spend the remainder of her brief life wishing she had not. What she does know is that the bull is almost directly behind her now. She can feel its breath, humid and hot, against her back. She begins to shriek. Here is the knowledge they intentionally withheld regarding the Byzantine Empire. You are familiar with the magnificent mosaics and the towering cupolas of Hagia Sophia. You learned about Constantine and Justinian and the preservation of Roman law, yet you never learned that the Hippodrome of Constantinople was a slaughterhouse where political adversaries were annihilated before cheering spectators for over 1,000 years. you never heard about the systematic application of public degradation and torment as mechanisms of state governance. And you certainly never uncovered the specific methodologies Byzantines utilized to crush women who jeopardized the political establishment. Tonight, you will comprehend why the Hippodrome was not merely a venue for chariot races, but a theater of deliberate malice. How the faction system coerced citizens into complicity with atrocities, and why the most profoundly savage spectacles in Byzantine history were specifically directed at women. The reason this history has been sanitized will clearly demonstrate how powerful empires mask their darkest deeds beneath assertions of civilization and Christianity. Hit that like button and subscribe if you seek the concealed truths history attempted to suppress. Stay with us, because what I reveal at the end concerning Helena and the bull will utterly stun you. Comment where you are viewing from. Now let us proceed, because this narrative intensifies in darkness. The Hippodrome of Constantinople was distinct from Roman arenas. It possessed a more sinister quality. Constructed in the 3rd century and expanded by Constantine in 330 AD, it became the political and social axis of the Byzantine Empire. The edifice was gargantuan, over 400 meters in length, 100 meters in width, with rising stone seats that could accommodate 100,000 spectators, though 50,000 was more common. At one extremity stood the Castema, the imperial enclosure where emperors sat in observance. The arena floor utilized fine sand imported from Egypt, specifically selected and expensive. Running along the external walls were corridors and chambers, storage facilities for equipment, and detention cells for detainees. And under the entire structure, a network of tunnels and rooms that most citizens never encountered. This was not simply architecture for amusement. It was infrastructure for state terror.
The Hippodrome served as the most conspicuous, vital, and perilous manifestation of factional allegiance. When attending races, you occupied your faction's seating block, wore its colors, and cheered exclusively for its chariots. Any perceived disloyalty could result in your death, not by governing authorities, but by your own faction members who viewed you as a traitor. This system furnished emperors with a potent instrument. They could exploit factional rivalries to manage the populace, promising favor to one side to ensure its loyalty, threatening the other to maintain compliance, and utilizing both factions against each other to prevent any unified opposition against the imperial authority. And when political opponents needed spectacular, public elimination, the Hippodrome offered the ideal setting: tens of thousands of witnesses, faction members eager to participate, and an arena literally designed for sensational violence. Let me be unambiguous. This was not archaic history for the Byzantines. This was not a primitive practice they had surpassed. This was calculated policy within a Christian empire that asserted moral superiority over pagan Rome. So, Helena was trapped, born into a blue family, betrothed to a blue official. Her family possessed influence and wealth within her faction. But by 532 AD, tensions between the blues and greens had peaked. Emperor Justinian had alienated both factions through punitive taxation and religious repression. Uniquely, the blues and greens allied against him. The outcome was the Nika riots. And what transpired in the Hippodrome during those riots represents the single largest stadium massacre in human history. January 18, 532 AD. The Hippodrome is saturated. Chariot races are scheduled, but no one is observing the track. Both blues and greens are chanting the same word: Nika, victory, not for their chariots, but against the emperor. They are demanding Justinian's resignation, the removal of corrupt officials, and tax relief. The emperor is in the Katisma. He can hear them, 50,000 people demanding his removal.
This unprecedented unity of blues and greens is a political demonstration, a display of coordinated dissent. Justinian dispatched officials to negotiate. They entered the arena. The crowd screamed them down, refusing to disperse. The officials retreated and reported to the emperor that the situation was escalating. Justinian made a choice that would define his reign and result in more fatalities in a single day than most ancient battles. He ordered the imperial guards to seal every gate. All exits from the hippodrome were locked, trapping 50,000 people inside. The realization spread. The chanting ceased. Confusion, then fear, then panic erupted. People rushed the gates, finding them barred. They were enclosed in the arena with an emperor who had decided to resolve his political challenge in the most direct way possible. You are likely wondering what ensued. I will inform you. Justinian had summoned his finest general, Belisarius, a military savant who had conquered Vandal Africa and would later regain Italy. Belisarius entered the hippodrome through the imperial passage with 3,000 soldiers, heavy infantry armed with spears and swords, no ranged weapons. This was intended to be immediate, visceral, and systematic. The soldiers formed a line across the arena floor and began advancing into the crowd. The people in the stands had no means of escape. They possessed no weapons, no armor, and no training. Most were common citizens, tradesmen, laborers, and families who had come for races. They attempted to scale the walls, tried to breach the sealed gates. Some leapt from the upper tiers, crashing 30 feet down onto stone, sustaining fatal injuries. The soldiers reached the stands and began the slaughter, systematic and efficient, moving row by row, stabbing anyone within reach. Men, women, children, the elderly. No distinction, no compassion. This continued for hours. The shrieks resonated across the city. People trapped higher up watched the soldiers methodically ascend toward them, knowing their turn was imminent. Unable to flee, some fought back barehanded and were instantly cut down. Some pleaded for mercy and were killed anyway. Some stood frozen in shock and were stabbed where they stood. The sand turned crimson, then thick with gore. Bodies accumulated in the passageways. The soldiers had to step over corpses to reach those attempting to hide behind them. By nightfall, 30,000 people were dead. 30,000 in a single structure, on a single day. The largest stadium massacre in antiquity. Justinian had eliminated his political issue. No more unified opposition, no more blue and green alliance. The survivors would forever recall the consequence of challenging imperial authority, that the emperor could and would kill tens of thousands of his own populace in their own public space to maintain power. If you are experiencing nausea currently, that is warranted. This event is factual. We know because multiple Byzantine historians documented it: Procopius, Marcellinus, John Malalas. The figures differ slightly. Some cite 25,000, some 35,000, but all agree that tens of thousands were murdered in the hippodrome during the Nika revolt.
But the massacre was not the only event that day. While soldiers eliminated the crowd, Justinian's officials moved through the tiers, identifying specific individuals, political adversaries, faction leaders, and wealthy families who had backed the opposition. These individuals were not killed. They were extracted from the crowd, dragged to the arena floor, and held for special treatment. Among them were women, wives and daughters of blue and green officials who had called for Justinian's removal. These women had committed no offense other than being related to the wrong men. What occurred to them in the days following the massacre illustrates how the Byzantines employed gender-specific degradation as a means of political terror. Remember this fact. It is vital when I return to Helena and the bull. 73 women were detained after the Nika riots. All belonged to noble families and were connected to opposition factions. Most had done nothing beyond attending the races with their relatives. But the empire needed to convey a message, not only about political dissent, but about social order, about appropriate conduct for women of high rank, and about the repercussions of being on the opposing side. These women were confined in the subterranean chambers beneath the hippodrome for 3 days, deprived of sustenance, water, and basic dignity. Then, on the 4th day, they were brought into the arena individually. The hippodrome was reopened, this time accommodating a smaller, carefully selected crowd, perhaps 10,000 loyal citizens who needed to witness the costs of disloyalty. The women were marched through the arena gates. The crowd noise changed, becoming louder and more excited. These women had worn silk and gold 4 days prior. Now they wore rags, or less. Their hair had been cut off, not styled, but savagely hacked off with blades, leaving them humiliatingly uneven. Some had been physically abused, displaying visible cuts and contusions. They were paraded around the arena track, walking in a single file, with guards flanking them. Their names were shouted, insults were hurled, and the crowd was encouraged to throw objects, rotten food, pebbles, filth. The women were forced to complete the entire 400-meter circuit in front of thousands, being pelted and ridiculed. Some collapsed, were dragged to their feet and forced to proceed. Some wept, some maintained composure through silence. All were destroyed by the conclusion. After the walk, they were brought to the arena center and forced to kneel. A herald read their crimes, supporting treason, harboring rebels, defying imperial authority. Crimes they had not actually perpetrated, crimes of affiliation, a family, a factional loyalty. Then their sentence was declared: exile, confiscation of assets, and permanent social disgrace. They were led away, banished to distant parts of the empire. The message was unambiguous. Women who failed to restrain their male relatives, who failed to avoid politics, who failed to remain appropriately subordinate, would be stripped of everything: rank, wealth, dignity, identity, before the maximum possible number of witnesses. This exact pattern recurs throughout Byzantine history, whenever women were perceived as challenges to the established order. But the Nika riots established something more. They confirmed that the hippodrome was no longer merely an entertainment venue. It was an execution ground, a place where enemies of the state could be annihilated publicly. And Byzantines developed specific techniques for maximizing psychological impact. One was blinding. The Byzantines perfected blinding as a form of political retribution. It was surgical, precise, designed to remove someone from power without killing them. If you blinded a rival, they could not claim the throne, could not lead armies, could not threaten you, but they remained alive as a deterrent, a visible symbol of the fate of those who aspired too high. Many blindings occurred in the hippodrome before crowds as public spectacle. Let me describe one specific case, the blinding of Emperor Romanos IV in 1071. Romanos had lost a battle to the Turks, was captured and ransomed back to Constantinople. His political enemies seized the opportunity. They deposed him and proclaimed a new emperor. But Romanos still commanded support and legitimacy, so they brought him to the hippodrome, announced his crimes, treason, incompetence, endangering the empire. Then the executioner approached with a bronze rod, heated until it glowed red. The crowd fell silent. This part demanded attention. Romanos was held down by 4 guards, his head secured. The executioner placed the glowing bronze against his eyes. First the right, holding it there for 3 seconds. The eyeball burst. Fluid hissed and smoked. The odor of burning flesh pervaded the arena. Then the left, the same procedure. Romanos screamed throughout. The crowd watched, some in horror, some in morbid fascination, most in silence. They understood that this could be their fate if they chose the wrong faction, backed the wrong emperor, or made the wrong political calculation. When the act was concluded, Romanos was led away, blind, broken. He survived for another 2 years in a monastery, dying from infection caused by the wounds, but those 2 years served his purpose. Every time someone saw the blind former emperor, they remembered what happens when you lose power.
Maximizing the horror for the audience. Sometimes the heated metal was applied multiple times. Sometimes different tools were used. Hooks to completely remove the eyeballs, knives to excise them, or acid poured directly into the sockets. Byzantine Chronicles detailed dozens of variations, each one more savage, each one performed in public, each one engineered to remind citizens that the empire owned their bodies, could alter them, mutilate them, and destroy them at will. But blindings were rapid, concluded within minutes. The Byzantines devised other methods that were protracted, offering spectators more to observe, more to remember. One such method involved chariots. The vehicles used for racing could also be employed for execution. Rebels or captured adversaries would be bound to the back of a chariot, arms and legs secured, a rope around the torso. Then the horses would be driven, not at racing speed, but slower, more controlled. The body would be dragged around the track's 400-meter circuit over sand and stone. The friction ripped skin and shattered bones. The victim died slowly, piece by piece. Sometimes multiple laps were executed. Sometimes the chariot paused midway and guards checked if the victim was still alive. If so, they continued. If not, the body was dragged the rest of the way regardless, serving as a warning and a spectacle that imprinted itself on every viewer. These executions were rare, reserved for the gravest offenses, high treason, assassination attempts, or rebellion. But when they occurred, the entire city was aware. The hippodrome would be packed. The empire ensured they witnessed it. The documents I am about to reference reveal practices rarely discussed publicly. Chariot executions and blindings were individual punishments, but the Byzantines also developed methods for groups, for specific categories of people who required subjugation. One category that frequently appears in the Chronicles is disgraced noble women. Women accused of adultery or witchcraft, or who opposed the wrong faction or simply incurred the wrath of a powerful person. These women could not be killed without legal justification. They possessed families, connections, and rights under Byzantine law, but they could be humiliated, degraded, and displayed, and the hippodrome provided the venue. The process was termed the procession of shame. It followed specific stages. First, the woman was arrested and her alleged crime announced publicly. Then, she was held in the subterranean chambers for several days. During this time, preparations were made. Her hair was cut or entirely shaved. Her clothing was replaced with sackcloth or removed entirely. She was denied food and water to ensure she appeared weak and defeated. Then came the public display. She was brought into the arena, usually during a race day, between events, amusement for the crowd. She would walk the track circuit, guarded on either side. Her name and crime were announced. The crowd reacted, screaming, jeering, throwing refuse. The woman had to complete the circuit slowly enough for everyone to see and remain upright despite the abuse. At the conclusion, she knelt in the center. A herald read her sentence, usually exile, sometimes confinement to a convent, rarely execution. The objective was not fatality, but social annihilation, to make her an example, showing other women the consequence of stepping outside acceptable limits, threatening the political order, or forgetting their place. Let me show you the connection to today's narrative. If you are still listening, comment number 1 below to let me know you are here. Like the video and subscribe to the channel to show me your support if you haven't already. Now let's continue. Several Byzantine empresses utilized the hippodrome specifically to destroy female rivals.
Theodora, Justinian's wife and empress during the Nika riots, had ascended from poverty to power. She began as an actress, possibly worse, married the future emperor, and became one of the most influential women in Byzantine history. But she never forgot the women who had scorned her low birth. When she gained authority, she destroyed them. 3 documented cases exist of noblewomen who had insulted Theodora before her marriage. All 3 were brought to the hippodrome within a year of Justinian taking power. All 3 were subjected to processions of shame, stripped, shorn, paraded, and humiliated before the very crowds who had previously seen them in silks and jewels in the best seats. Theodora ensured she was present for these displays, seated in the katisma, watching, maintaining eye contact as the women passed, ensuring they understood precisely who ordered this, who held the power now, who controlled their fate. 2 of the 3 died in exile. The 3rd entered a convent and was never heard from again. Theodora had erased them, using the hippodrome to demonstrate that past slights were not forgotten, that she could reach and destroy anyone, regardless of family or former status. The message was received. No one dared speak against Theodora thereafter. But Theodora's vengeance was at least personal. Many uses of the hippodrome for degradation were purely political, calculated terror. One recurring method was the mock coronation. When rebels were captured or political movements crushed, the leaders were brought to the hippodrome for ritual humiliation before execution. This was pure theater. The rebel would be clothed in imperial purple, the color reserved for emperors, given a fake crown, cheap metal, sometimes a crown of thorns, a mocking Christian parallel. The fake emperor would be paraded, announced with fake fanfare. The crowd would laugh, jeer, understanding they were watching a performance, power asserting itself through ridicule. The rebel would be forced to sit on a chair in the center, pretending to hold court. Guards would approach, feign a bow, then strike him, beat him, still wearing the crown and robes, still pretending to be emperor, until the beating became real, until blood soaked the purple, until the crown fell off, until the rebel could no longer stand. Then the real execution began, sometimes beheading, sometimes blinding followed by slow death, sometimes innovation. Whatever communicated the strongest message, whatever would be remembered and repeated, whatever would make the next potential rebel think twice before challenging imperial authority. You are right to be suspicious about how civilized Byzantium truly was. So why did ordinary people participate in this system? How did citizens of a Christian empire watch these spectacles without rebelling? The psychology is complex, but understandable.
Faction loyalty. If the victim belonged to the opposing faction, you cheered their destruction. Blues loved seeing Greens suffer, and vice versa. This created automatic audience engagement and complicity. Social control through fear. Anyone watching understood they could be next. Better to be in the crowd than in the arena. Religious justification. The empire claimed divine sanction. The emperor was God's representative. His enemies were God's enemies. Watching them punished was witnessing divine justice. Entertainment scarcity. The hippodrome was one of the few public amusements available. These special spectacles were rare, novel, and exciting. People attended because there was little else to see. Simple human darkness. The capacity for cruelty when given permission. When surrounded by thousands doing the same, when authority validates the act, and when the victim is sufficiently othered, people will watch terrible things and cheer. The Byzantines grasped this and systematically exploited it. The hippodrome was not merely an arena. It was a machine for manufacturing consent, for traumatizing populations into submission, and for demonstrating that resistance was futile and would be punished spectacularly. Each small step of normalization made the next atrocity easier to accept. But even in Byzantium, there were limits. Methods so extreme that even a population desensitized to routine violence found them disturbing. Methods used rarely because they were so profound, mentioned in Chronicles only through euphemisms. One involved animals, but not the lions or bears of the Romans. The Byzantines viewed beast hunts as pagan excess. Instead, they found other uses for animals, uses designed not to kill, but to degrade, to induce psychological trauma more than physical harm, to break people through humiliation rather than pain. Let me tell you what truly happened to Helena, the woman we encountered at the outset, chained on all fours in the arena with a bull approaching. You have waited for this. You were promised an answer. Here is the truth they attempted to suppress. Helena was not being executed. The bull was not going to gore her. The guards were not going to permit it to kill her. What they were going to do was let it terrify her. Let it approach from behind where she could not clearly see it, only hear it, smell it, feel its exhalation. The bull was trained, not savage. The guards controlled it with ropes and prods. They positioned it directly behind her, close enough for her to feel its mass and presence. The bull's massive head was lowered toward her exposed back. The terror was absolute. Helena believed she was about to die, believed the bull was about to injure her in the most horrifying manner possible. The anticipation lasted several minutes, feeling like hours. The guards allowed the scene to unfold, letting the fear do the critical work, letting her imagination create torments worse than reality. Finally, they pulled the bull away, leading it back toward the gates. Helena collapsed, still shackled, still on all fours, sobbing, trembling, utterly broken. The crowd erupted, some cheering, some laughing, some in appalled silence. She was destroyed without being physically touched, reduced to pure animal terror, stripped of composure, dignity, and humanity. And she had to live with that, to know 50,000 people watched her break, watched her reduced to helpless prey, would remember, would retell the story, and would use her name as a shorthand for absolute degradation. She was released the next day, sent into exile, and died 2 years later. The cause of death was unrecorded, but the spectacle had achieved its goal. Other women observed what happened. Other families understood the price of opposition. Other nobles made different political decisions, all because of a bull, a woman, and calculated psychological destruction performed as amusement. This is what the Byzantines did. This is what Christian emperors sanctioned. This is what transpired in the hippodrome for over 1,000 years. The remnants of the hippodrome still exist in modern Istanbul. You can visit them, walk on ground where 50,000 people screamed for blood, stand where Helena knelt in chains. Most visitors are unaware. They see ancient architecture, not the massacre, the blindings, the systemic terror that history has sanitized and reframed as mere political violence. No, this was calculated, sophisticated, and designed to control populations through spectacular cruelty. The Byzantines were not primitive barbarians. They were a literate, Christian civilization with a Roman legal tradition and Greek philosophical heritage. They chose this path, refined it, and perfected it over centuries. And they are not unique.
Every empire that centralizes power develops such methods. Every system that claims absolute authority finds ways to annihilate opponents spectacularly. So, what do we learn from this? Civilization does not prevent atrocity. It provides superior tools for committing it. Public participation in violence requires careful cultivation, faction loyalty, fear, religious justification, permission. Once cultivated, populations will watch almost anything. The most effective terror targets identity more than the body. Stripping someone of dignity in public destroys them more completely than execution ever could. The Byzantines understood this. That is why so many hippodrome spectacles focused on humiliation, why they stripped and shaved and mocked, why they used animals for psychological terror, and why they ensured tens of thousands witnessed the destruction. The body dies once. The humiliated person dies socially and must live with that death. Remember those 3 lessons for Helena, who died at 25, still trapped in the moment that bull approached her. Remember the 73 noble women paraded after Nika? Remember the 30,000 citizens massacred in the stands? They were people. They had names. They were warnings. They were proof that civilization can coexist with cruelty, that Christianity can justify atrocity, and that good people can watch evil and cheer. Do not let history sanitize the truth. Demand the real history.